welcome back to another episode of the Chronic Book Club, where we smoke chronic and read comics and talk comics and rip chronics, and you get the picture.
Yeah.
Hosting for the very first time, I'm Christopher Jakes, and with me, as always, is the well-rested Rips Van Winkle himself, Al Taylor. How you doing, Al?
What's up? How are we?
And the Jermaine to my Watiti, the JB to my KG, Michael Woodrow Wood. How are you, bud?
Yeah, I just want to say it's pretty funny that since Al knew he wasn't hosting, he's so fucking high right now, dude. Look at him. You look like you're riding on a motorcycle with no goggles.
I am riding on a motorcycle with no goggles.
Okay, brass tacks, boys. What are we smoking?
I still got my doobie weed, but I just realized I was like, well, I'm running out of flour, but then I was like, I must have at least an eighth of dabs just lying around. So I was like, I should just start doing more dabs. So I've been doing that, and I've been pretty high for like 3 days.
The English language is starting to escape you?
Yeah, it's a little bit. So if I'm a little slurry in my slurry today, please let me know in the comments.
What's the word? What's the word? Is it? It's page. I turned to the page.
Turn the page.
Al, what are you smoking?
Well, flour. I have some Queen of the Garden. And in my pen, I've got some OG Kush. And yeah, I'm higher than giraffe balls. So let's do this.
I've got lobster breath in the joints, and I've got some day wrecker in the rig. You know, usual OG Kushes, because I like psychedelic weed for psychedelic discussions about psychedelic comic books, and that's what we're here to do today. Quick reminder, everything we're reading can be found on Marvel Unlimited with over 25,000 titles to choose from. Classics, modern, and obscure. They've got an ever-expanding list of content. And Comixology with publishers like DC, Image, and Boom. All of the most current comics. Both apps are available on the Apple App Store and Google Play. Today, boys, we are going to wrap up our coverage on WandaVision and probably say goodbye to Mephisto for good. We've read House of M. We've read Vision Quest. There's a few loose ends from the show we need to go over. And there's also dishing out the further reading lists that we've got for you guys at home so you can keep reading about these awesome characters that we've started to get into. Before that, we'd like to talk about today's sponsor. Today's episode is brought to you by Funk Farm. Funk Farm offers regenerative farming solutions for all levels of gardeners and cultivators, as well as offering heirloom genetics made for the climates you actually live in. Funk Farm can help you get the funk into any space, big or small. Reach out to see how Funk Farm can help you heal at home through the joys of gardening. Funk Farm, helping people heal at home. Okay, let's get into it. Al, Woody, we're going to start with some of the biggest questions people have from the show, explaining some of their comic relevance. And then I'm going to have to admit, just first and foremost, I was wrong about everything. Every single thing that I was like, no, that's in the comics. No, that's in the comics. No,
Everybody was wrong.
They fucked us so hard.
And I think they finally, I think they did it on purpose. I think there were so many red herrings in the show trying to get people to look one way or the other, and they did fantastic on that. So let's start breaking down some of the pieces of this show that might still be confusing to the new comic book reader who's trying to get some more stuff out of the MCU. I think it's worth starting at the end and working our way back. And I think we'll start with that post-credit scene in the theater. Okay, so we've got Skrulls, and we've got Sword, and we've got Nick Fury, who's up in the sky in the base, and we've got Monica Rambeau. Obviously, this is leading into Secret Invasion, and for further reading, the best way to read Secret Invasion is to find your way over to the website comicbookherald.com and use their Secret Invasion reading list. Comic Book Herald is one of the best kept secrets for comic book fans. If you're looking for a good reading list that keeps the multiple titles in order, great website. They didn't sponsor this episode, but most of us comic book regular readers end up using that website at one time or another. So if you want to read Secret Invasion, I might have said Secret Wars earlier, Secret Invasion, that's definitely a show that's coming up on Disney Plus, and that's what that final post-credit scene was. Secret Invasion, we've got Skrulls, we've got Monica, we've got Fury, Al, what do you think we can expect out of Secret Invasion as a television show? Do you think it's going to be really comic book accurate, or do you think they're going to do to us what they did with WandaVision and throw us a bunch of red herrings and curveballs?
Well, I think what they're going to do is definitely, throw us a bunch of red herrings and curveballs. I mean, just kind of look at what they did with WandaVision, how they were able to do that, and, kind of, especially for that core base, throw them one way and put them another. So going into a television show like that, how comic accurate is it going to be? I think Marvel is going to do the best with what they have at the time. Does that include Monica Rambeau? Absolutely. Will it include, we have Falcon and the Winter Soldier starting, how is this going to tie into it? Because you know the way that Marvel works, even though, WandaVision is separate from Falcon and Winter Soldier, there's going to be a mix in there at some point, bringing us all to the same thing. So I think Marvel Television is going to do the best they can with what we have so far.
Hey, so we know that Secret Invasion is a story about how Skrulls infiltrate planet Earth by pretending to be some of the heroes and some of the villains in the Marvel universe. Woody, who's a Skrull? Who right now, where we are and watching, who do you think is a Skrull? Who do you think is going to be a big reveal? Like, oh man, Bucky was a Skrull all along. Shit.
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, the whole thing with it is like, I think first of all that post-credit scene from Far From Home, where Nick Fury is up in space in like slippers,
and Talos has been pretending to be Nick Fury this whole time. Yep.
Yes. So it's like, is he in on that, or like, why? What is going on with the whole Nick? That's what throws me for a loop. Because if they're doing that and it's a lot, man. And like, I don't even know. After WandaVision, I don't even know if I want to make predictions about anything anymore. Because they could be like, Mr. Hanky is now the star of Marvel Universe.
Well,
we're gonna retcon him in because we just want to make.
Well, Woody, going back on to one of the things that you were just saying, like, could it be the Winter Soldier? I think back into the MCU and post-credit scenes, and especially Black Panther, where they go down to Bucky Barnes and they say, it's time to wake up the White Wolf. So what if Bucky Barnes did become the White Wolf, and this Bucky Barnes is actually a Skrull, and that Skrull's going to come away, and we're not going to have a Winter Soldier. We're going to have a White Wolf. That could definitely be a possibility.
Exactly. That's the funnest thing about this story, and I don't want to spoil anything, but it's literally like it's like a murder mystery in cosmic realm with aliens on planet Earth.
Who done it?
Yeah, it's a big whodunit story, and it's really fun as a comic. So I highly suggest reading it because, as Al said, it's unlikely that they're going to do the comic story note for note exactly the same way. And it's a real fun read, but it is a real long read. There's almost 114 comics in Secret Invasion, and when we go to do that entire show, I'm sure we'll read a bunch of those books. All right, up next, Wundagore Mountain, a highly magical place and the likely location where Wanda was in the second post-credit scene. She's hanging out in her little cabin in this highly magical place where she is managing to be able to do magic even more powerful than the Sorcerer Supreme. People have talked about it a lot already. So Wundagore Mountain in the comics is this incredibly magical place where the Elder Gods had a great battle, and the Elder God, who is like the originator of chaos magic, Chthon. And I want to get to this real quick. Okay, you're not supposed to be able to say it right because it's like Cthulhu, where if you could actually say the word, you'd go insane because Chthon's supposed to be based off Cthulhu. So if anyone's giving you shit for how you're saying that out there, punch them in the nose and tell them they're going to go insane. And then just walk away, and it'll be a really weird moment for everyone. Anyways, so Chthon was cast out of his earthly body and forced to live inside. His essence was inside of Wundagore Mountain. So Wundagore Mountain, super magical place in the comics. If you hear people talking about it, you're confused about it. It's super important. Agatha Harkness has spent a lot of time there. Wanda has spent a lot of time there. And the High Evolutionary is a very important person in the comics who has spent a lot of time there. With a location like Wundagore Mountain, you get a lot of push towards magic in phase 4 of the MCU. So the more we read in, the more we see magic in the MCU, when you're checking out Spider-Man 3, when you're checking out Doctor Strange 2, keep in mind the comics to go back to and these things that you can use as pinpoints to Google search to find new awesome comics to read. But Wundagore Mountain is a great jumping off point. And when it comes to magic in the comics, we have our own resident expert, Al Taylor. So Al, what do you think about things like Wundagore Mountain and the High Evolutionary? Do you think that's something that we're going to get in the MCU, or do you think that these are more red herrings? What do you think? As I think we're jumping more into magic here. I think that's what that was.
Well, and absolutely. And you know, and we know going forward that Doctor Strange 2 as well as Spider-Man 3 is going to be based a lot on a multiverse, you know, which is going to have a lot to do with magic. Could this be Wundagore Mountain? Maybe, probably for like us dorks who are thinking that, yes. Is it going to be as important as I think it is? No. Could it be like a final battle place? Like all of a sudden, you know, Chthon is coming and we know where, you know, we can take him on and what part of this, you know, realm has the strongest magic, you know, because like you said at the that extra credit scene, we have Wanda Maximoff, you know, pretty much pulling a Doctor Strange in her astral form, learning, you know, at the same time, just trying to make herself more powerful. So do I think it will have some significance? Yes. As much as we hope it does as dorks, probably not. But I definitely think there's a connection. Absolutely.
Oh, at the end of this,
I just have one thing I want to say to the MCU, and that's, let me see Chthon, baby. Chthon. Sorry, I had to get that out.
That was great. Also, I am all about that song. That song fucking fire. Great beat. So Wundagore Mountain in the comics, super important, might not be important in the MCU. Here's hoping though, because the more we dive into the magic, the more just open-ended these movies can get. Next up, I want to start this with just a question for both of you. We're going to start with Woody. We're going to ask the same question to Al. We're going to talk about Agatha in the comics right after this, but Agatha is one of the most powerful magic users in all of Marvel Comics. She is way older than just the Salem witch trial in the comics. In the comics, she goes all the way back. She remembers 500 years before the sinking of Atlantis. So she's older than the Eternals, you know, having their battles on Earth. Or she's around that age because Atlantis sunk when the Eternals had a big battle with the Deviants. This is all deep Jack Kirby stuff in the comics. And anyone who's interested, stick through the video. We're going to have a bunch of reading lists at the end for everyone to check out and dig more in. So here's the question. Agatha Harkness is one of the absolute most powerful magic users in all of the MCU. Was she underutilized in this show? Was she put into a pocket? Did you guys want to see a more powerful Agatha, or was she a little too more one-dimensional? Did you like how Agatha was used in WandaVision? Woody?
That's rough. I mean, I think there's more to her character as far as what her master plan is. Like, I think it still is Agatha all along situation. I think there wasn't necessarily, she didn't want to outpower her. She wanted her to reach her true potential and then later on be like, I was the one. You know, she wants to play that card of like, you wouldn't even know who the fuck you were if it was me. And eventually Wanda's going to come calling because she's the only other person she knows that knows anything about what she's trying to learn. And I want to say the whole astral projection Wanda thing and the end credit scene, it's so fucking sick to see her doing what Doctor Strange did. But anyway, I definitely think that Agatha might have been like she like knowing that she would just imprison her. She knows she's not going to kill her at the end of it. So like she knows. I don't think she's actually even under Wanda's enchantment that she put on her because she already got out of it the whole fucking time in the show anyway.
Oh, that's a
So
dope
it's
theory.
like she was probably like, okay,
That's a
all
really
right,
dope theory.
I'll play your little fucking game. What happens when she goes in the basement at Ralph's house? What about poor Ralph? What's she gonna do when she gets home? She gonna go, oh, poor Ralph's just gonna be fucking locked up. Like what's she gonna do to him? Where is she staying in Westview? What's the situation like? Does she have a house now? There's a lot of bullshit with WandaVision in general that was just rushed. I feel like the last episode left me like I got half a handy or something, you know?
I gotta say, I feel similarly to you on that one when it comes to Agatha
episodes.
Specifically. We could have gotten just one more episode. We could add a lot more depth to the reasoning behind Agatha because Agatha is one of the oldest magic users on the planet as well. You know,
very important.
She knows things that the Ancient One knows. You know, so these are characters that are definitely worth exploring more. Al, what do you think? You think we're getting a lot more Agatha?
I do think we're getting a lot more Agatha because I really think, you know, like what he said, when it comes down to is Doctor Strange and Scarlet Witch are going to be put into a position where they are going to need like some type of trifecta of magic, okay? And Doctor Strange is going to say, well, I know Baron Mordo, okay? And Wanda goes, no, I know somebody. And they go get Agatha Harkness. And Agatha Harkness, Scarlet Witch, and Doctor Strange, you know, somehow take on Chthon or Nightmare or somebody. But do I think they underutilized her in the show? Yes, absolutely. She's a lot more powerful than that. Do I like how they did her as, you know, being younger and having it be Catherine Hahn? Oh, I love Catherine Hahn. I love that. I thought it was cool. Great idea. I love the brooch. I love everything about the character except for the fact, you know, like I said, she was underutilized. And, you know, again, going back to what Woody said, could she be playing along? Probably. Why? Because we watched 6-7 episodes of a show and found out it was Agatha all along, you know.
Absolute fucking bop.
Who knows? Who knows what they could do? So
okay, so let's dig into Agatha in the comics a little bit. So one of my favorite things about Agatha is that she has been a caretaker of sorts for pretty much the two most powerful earthbound characters in all of Marvel Comics. Franklin Richards, who's a character for a whole nother series of videos, and of course, Wanda. For a long, long time, Agatha is a lot like the teacher in that jazz movie Whiplash when it comes to Wanda. Yet instead of throwing musical instruments at Wanda, she kind of just like fucks with her head aggressively and forces her to keep growing her power set and becoming more and more strong. And we got really close to reading some of those stories in that West Coast Avengers run. So we're going to give those stories later in the video, like I said, and there's going to be a bunch of stuff that fleshes out Agatha and exactly how powerful she is. Next up, I think it's time to keep talking magic because that's just where we're at with this whole thing. And it's the Darkhold. One of the biggest sets of questions. It's one of the highest Googled things in the whole like Marvel wiki fandom world right now. So the Darkhold is, in short, a book of dark magic. We could simplify it that much, but in comics, it's so huge. And it goes all the way back to those elder gods that I was talking about earlier. So in the likelihood of the world of the MCU, it's very unlikely that we're going to get the elder gods on the movie screen or in a television show. But this is still really, really cool storytelling. So if you just want to keep watching the MCU, you don't want to dive into this deep, deep lore, that's cool. We love you anyways. Keep on reading along with us. But if you want to get into some of Jack Kirby's finest character creation, the Elder Gods and the early forces of the Earth are some of the coolest stuff that he worked on.
Absolutely.
So, the Elder Gods were basically the first life forces on Earth. Most of them became corrupted except for Mother Earth Gaia. Gaia, during the battle of all these evil, awesome creatures on the surface, went deep into the planet Earth, spoke to the original essence of the Earth that gave all of them their powers and said, give me a weapon. And the essence of Earth gave her a weapon in a sun, if you will. And that sun was named Adam, and later became the Demigorge. Demigurge. I don't know how to pronounce ancient linguistics, so I don't try very hard, but it's Demigorge. And this Demigorge has been brought back up across Marvel Comics history for 70 years. This thing has been sent around. It's first. The first real tellings of the Elder Gods is in Thor Annual number 10. And from there, we find out that when Chthon, one of the most powerful of the Dark Elder Gods, was beaten back by this Demigorge, that his last act on this planet before his essence was trapped into Wundagore Mountain was that he wrote the Darkhold. And get this, it's written in fucking flesh. How fucking Slayer is that? How fucking metal is that? It's written in fucking flesh. Oh my God. Okay, so the Darkhold is pretty much the essence of his magic that still resides on Earth, and it is his connection to coming back to the Earth. So I'm saying this type of stuff is so critical to Wanda's character development because it's where Wanda's power set comes from. In the comics, if you want to know where Wanda's chaos magic, her probability hexes, all that type of stuff comes from, it comes from the fact that she was born on Wundagore Mountain, where Chthon was locked away, who wrote the Darkhold. Okay, this is the big giant circle that's going on with the Darkhold and Wanda, and why it all circles back to her. So, guys, do you think the MCU is going to get into any of that? I know we keep asking the same question about different subjects, but that's kind of what we're here to do. How do you think they're going to incorporate the Darkhold and the Elder Gods, or this source of Wanda's magic, into these storylines? Woody, you go first.
So do you think the Darkhold was the missing book?
You're referring to the missing book in Doctor Strange 1.
Yes.
And no, I do not. I believe that's the book of Dormammu that Caecilius stole.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense.
I'd like it to be. That'd be super cool. It would make sense for the Ancient One to be holding on to the Darkhold and protecting it.
That's what my thoughts was like. How do you bring that into the MCU? Well, that would be an easy in if like Doctor Strange shows up because he's like, I've been looking for this book. Like we were supposed to take care of this thing. And then it was gone, and it's the one thing in the books that isn't there. So, like, him going to Wanda to be like, what's up with, why do you have this book? Could be a way.
All right, so we have, obviously Marvel has come to the conclusion that the Darkhold is going to differ from the MCU compared as it does with, say, S.H.I.E.L.D., where we have mention of Darkhold and S.H.I.E.L.D. with it being whether Morgan Le Fay or Ghost Rider. So we know that the book is definitely going to be something different altogether in the MCU. Do I think I think they're going to have a lot of this stuff, and it's going to be a lot of Easter eggs for people like us. Are they going to sit there and are they going to say, Wanda, your magic comes from page 47 of the Darkhold? Where I don't think they're going to do that. Absolutely not. Is it going to be, like I said, those little Easter eggs, those little phrases that they drop that catches our ear and say, oh, I know what that is. That's what I think it'll be. Again, I don't think they're going to go deep into it,
So
like I was
quick,
saying before when we were talking, like what pissed me off, one of the things pissed me off the most on WandaVision was the fact that this such a giant magical event went down, and Doctor Strange was like, he's supposed to be on top of it. Like he knows when Loki shows up, and Thor come from another plane, but he doesn't sense that like an entire
whole town is being held hostage.
has a
Yeah,
hex
we
on
really
it.
do need an answer to that. We absolutely have
That's
to have an
fucked
answer.
up,
to that.
dude.
And here is your answer: is that Doctor Strange and Agatha Harkness already know each other, and Doctor Strange was okay with Agatha being there.
Well, here's the real answer. Dr. Strange lives in New Zealand where they have 0 COVID cases, and he wasn't going to fly to England to do any filming. That's the real reason why Doctor Strange wasn't aware of what was going on in WandaVision. But they'll have a good answer for it. That's what the MCU does. They're great at answering these questions. It's everything always. That's what they do. But real quick, let's talk about some users of the Darkhold and how it's affected the Marvel Comics world. Excuse me. Big fat dabs. So we've got the person who found the Darkhold was this monk in England. He found the Darkhold in a tower, and he got possessed by Chthon, and Merlin and Morgan Le Fay beat him, and they actually ripped up the Darkhold into a bunch of tiny little pages and cast it all over the fucking planet. And Morgan Le Fay was like, wait, no, I take it back. And then Morgan Le Fay recollected all of the Darkhold so that she could then try to again bring back Chthon. And just there's a lot of that in Marvel Comics. Someone trying to bring back Chthon. Carnage has tried to bring back Chthon using the Darkhold. And the Darkhold kind of like chases Wanda around, but she doesn't use it very frequently in the comics. Agatha has been a strong user of the Darkhold before. Doctor Strange, not Doctor Strange, Doctor Doom has used the Darkhold a number of times.
Thank you.
And the funny thing is, every time he uses the Darkhold's like, do you want to become a god? And he's like, no, I rule you. You're just a book. I'm Doom. It's fucking lit up, man. I love Doom. All right. So that brings me to a bigger question and a bigger discussion point. And this is just going to be an open talk here for a couple of minutes. And the question or the subject matter is magic in the comics versus magic in the MCU. We're still learning the rules here of what magic in the MCU looks like. But do you think they're going to keep using the Marvel Comics world for a guide to how magic is going to work as far as rules? Because like there's pretty strict rules in a lot of the issues of comics and what Doctor Strange can and cannot do, especially like the what
Tentacles.
Doctor Strange loves tentacles. Tentacles, bitch. There's so much magic in the Marvel Comics universe. I'm very interested to see what limits magic will have in the MCU. I mean, Wanda almost beat Thanos, and Thanos is super powerful. As far as just like a physical power, as well as also he can shoot fucking laser beams and just ultra strong. He beat the shit out of the Hulk, which I thought was kind of bullshit, but we're not going to get into that talk right now, Christopher. Anyways, Wanda with magic almost beat the shit out of Thanos, and she didn't even have her full Scarlet Witch powers yet. Guys, what do you think magic's going to look like in the MCU? Is magic going to be the new space? Is magic going to be as big and important as it is in the comics? What do you think, Woody?
Well, I was happy to see more than that's cool. That's cool to see more than that as far as magic what WandaVision brought. But again, I think one of the factors of the MCU is they're gonna do new things, but I think they'll still appreciate most of comic lore and what they've done with magic. I think it'd be interesting if they introduced what was introduced during the Doctor Strange comic that we read that eventually people will see. But when with that eating of the tentacles thing that I was talking about, if they somehow introduced that where there's a price to pay for magic, I think that would be a really good storyline to introduce. I think people are familiar enough with it, but again, having it be in a multiverse too, there's so many possibilities. There's so much room for activities. So that's going to be interesting to see. But again, I think what they're going to try to take it further, you know. And again, Doctor Strange knows way more about magic now than he did before. So him being introduced in it with Wanda, both of them working together with different aspects of magic, with his and her. I think it'll be a magical stew of magic.
We still don't have a lot of magical attacks yet. I mean, we have like he can whip people with
he can put them in a mirror world.
It's a mirror world.
We
don't have a lot of magical attacks.
Exactly.
Really, like blasts or anything like that.
Yeah. Or historical relics. All he had was the cape in the first one.
Yep, that's a big
one.
one.
He has some crazy ancient relics that he can bust out.
Well, and I definitely think we're going to start seeing that. We're going to start seeing different relics, being able to use as magic. Is magic going to be the new thing like space? No, but I think they're going to explain magic as the multiverse. We have a multiverse. They're not going to come out and say the multiverse is there because of magic, but it's definitely going to be magic influenced. I don't think they're going to have to make up anything new because they have so much source material. And Marvel Studios being the type of company that gets a lot of its writing and material from the source, from comic books. I don't see them making anything up. So do I think magic will be prevalent? Yes. I think it'll be explained more as the multiverse. And I think magic, you're going to see, though, like you said, magic attacks, all that stuff is going to start coming. We've already seen it with Wanda and Agnes, in that final battle.
So Al, do you think that Wanda being a Nexus being, and we're going to get into this in just a second, it sounds like you think Wanda being a Nexus being is going to be an important part of the story going forward.
Absolutely. I think it's going to have a lot to do with her opening up the multiverse.
So let's talk about what a Nexus being is in the comics. So a Nexus being in the comics. Anyone want to cover this other than me? Because I'm going to stumble my way through this because it's kind of fucking complicated.
Yeah, it is kind of complicated. So go for it.
Okay, so in the multiversal theory, which is in and of itself complicated, and Marvel does a great job at explaining it, second only to Rick and Morty. But basically, in every multiverse, there is one character who is the Nexus being of that multiverse, and that character is themselves across every single plane of reality, and they can traverse the realities. There's been stories of people trying to use the Nexus beings to bring armies through to other realities. This has been a big thing where like hell demons have been tried to be brought through Wanda onto this reality, stuff like that. So it's very big and very convoluted, and you can almost do whatever the fuck you want with it because there's very few rules to it, except for the fact that there's so many rules that have to be based off of it, because these Nexus beings are a constant in the ever variable understanding of the multiverse. As huge as the multiverse is, Wanda is always fucking Wanda. And there's some great stories of other Nexus beings trying to fight Wanda. One of my favorite ones is actually in the reading list that we're going to get to in just a few minutes. So Nexus beings, they tend to have their own shtick. They tend to be magic users. Other Nexus beings from other multiverses are Wanda's child, Wiccan, Nathaniel Richards, Franklin Richards, that family, also very powerful in that realm of the world. Merlin is a Nexus being. So some of your most powerful magic users end up being Nexus beings. So if we're going to go towards that, if you see us working towards that in Doctor Strange, if that's something they're pivoting on, expect some really, really awesome, powerful magic coming up. And if you're looking for any great reading on that, check out any of the stories based around Morgan Le Fay and Merlin, or specifically some of the stories that we're going to get into just down below. And that brings us into our next subject matter, the further reading, extra credit. Here we get into all the extra books that we didn't have time because it wasn't really about the show, and all sorts of cool shit that we can go over. And we're going to start real quick with finishing up, or the next segment of that West Coast Avengers one. West Coast Avengers 42 to 52, or you can even bring it all the way to 62, which is my suggestion. And that is the continuation of the New Vision, the Great Bay Avengers, which is a better story than it sounds. And that leads up to Darker Than Scarlet, which brings in Agatha Harkness. It brings in Nexus Beings. It's an excellent story and really fleshes out Wanda's character, especially the kind of Wanda that we're looking at in the WandaVision series. Guys, I think we all loved reading West Coast Avengers. I think we all loved reading House of M. I want to ask you, real short and straight, which did you like better, House of M or Vision Quest? Woody? Al?
That's
I'm
difficult.
all right. I'll go there first, and I am going to have to say, even though I love the both of them, Vision Quest, just for the fact I was 10 years old, just starting to get into comics, and reading that whole thing, it holds a special place to my heart. I'm a big Vision fan. Love Vision. Love the whole white, emotionless Vision. That whole West Coast Avengers run. I'm a huge Hawkeye fan. House of M is great, though. You know, like we said, definitely changing for the Marvel universe. You know, it definitely changed a lot of things. But personal favorite, I am going with Vision Quest. So.
Speaking of that West Coast Avengers run, that Hawkeye, that cold white Vision, Avengers Spotlight number 23 is an excellent story featuring just those two characters, and it takes place during the Darker Than Scarlet run. It's a bit of a side story of what's going on with those other characters. Awesome, awesome story. Definitely worth the read. Woody, House of M or Vision Quest?
So I think House of M with Decimation, with the day after, is what made it whole. So if you're saying,
I'm one of those. I count Decimation as part of House of M. House of M isn't complete without reading Decimation.
That's what needed to happen, because it's like, you know, there's not. You need to see the repercussions of No More Mutants. To end like that is kind of a bummer. To just be like, no more mutants, fuck off. You know what I mean? Like.
So further reading from that House of M, this is great. You know, that Wolverine run that comes right after this is an excellent, excellent story. A Wolverine with all of his memories and dealing with the fallout of House of M. Excellent run. The Amazing Spider-Man that comes after this House of M run. So fucking good. And if you were really hype on who were the three people holding Xavier hostage, definitely keep reading X-Men. Woody, if you could only pick one of those books to start reading, which would it be?
What to start reading afterwards?
Yeah.
Probably the Wolverine.
The Wolverine? Al?
Knowing his entire life, like, come on.
Al, what about you? You just finished reading House of M. What's the next book you read?
After everything Peter Parker went through, definitely Amazing Spider-Man. How is he dealing with it?
All right, pivoting here to, we're going to talk about Tom King's Vision. One of, I really was shooting for us to get to have time to go over this and read this story for WandaVision, because it's an amazing story that almost does very similar things to what we looked at in WandaVision, but Vision is the character that's dealing with grief and losing his fucking mind. And it's an excellent, excellent story. The artwork is out of this world. The character development is perfect. And there were so many shout outs. Sparky the dog is from Tom King's Vision. Yep. The Nexus herbs is a shout out to the plants of Wundergar Mountain that's in Tom King's Vision. There's so much cool stuff And we also find out exactly how powerful Vision is in, this 90s run of Tom King's Vision, later 90s run, because we end up seeing an altercation between him and probably like 24 heroes. And it's fucking awesome. It's fucking awesome. Can't recommend Tom King's Vision enough. Available on the apps that we discussed earlier. The next one we're going to run through pretty quickly here. We're going to talk about the Celestial Madonna Saga. This is really cool ancillary stuff based around magic and based around WandaVision. The complete Celestial Madonna Saga collects Avengers. This is 1963. Avengers 124 to 125, 129 to 135. It's Captain Marvel number 33 and Celestial Quest 1 through 8. And this is where we get the real origin of Vision. And this is the story that was right before the West Coast Avengers Vision Quest that we read. Bunch of awesome, cool stuff that happens in it. Find out a bunch of great new characters. Find out a little bit about space and space dragons and moon dragons. And there's a bunch of cool shit. Outside of WandaVision, we talked about the X-Men and Wolverine post-House of M, Spider-Man post-House of M. We talked about Morgan Le Fay and Merlin, two of the most powerful magic users ever. And if you want to see them interacting with some of the Darkhold magic, that's going to be Avengers 186 and 187. Go back to Spider-Man Annual 122 for more Darkhold magic, as well as Marvel Chillers number 1. Doctor Strange Sorcerer Supreme number 11, and Werewolf number 3, because you'll find out a lot about in that Werewolf series that vampires and werewolves and lots of other monsters are all products of different monks trying to use the Darkhold. Really cool kind of horror comic, but it's classic 1960s content, so it's kind of campy horror. It's really great stuff. If you're looking for the Chthon and Wanda origin, that's going to be in Avengers 185 to 187. If you're looking for that original Elder Gods battle, that's in Thor Annual 10, Marvel Tarot number 1, and Silver Surfer Annual number 2. Now, with that, as I'm getting hoarser and hoarser trying to read off all the comics that you should be reading as you go forward, Al Taylor, you're going to take this away, because there's no one I know that knows more about Monica Rambeau than you. And I've got a lot of readers want to read more Monica Rambeau after this. So give me some of your favorite must-read Monica Rambeau stories.
Absolutely. Monica Rambeau, obviously, we're going to start at Amazing Spider-Man Annual number 16 by Roger Stern. That is, of course, where Monica Rambeau gets her powers, becomes Captain Marvel. We also have, there is a Monica Rambeau Captain Marvel one-shot by McDuffie, where she goes up against the Sons of the Serpent. That is a great book. The Monica Rambeau Captain Marvel omnibus book, that of course is a must read, kind of has a little bit of all her little shorter stories. There is a run where she does with Next Wave, as well as Al Ewing, who right now is doing the Immortal Hulk run. He used to do the Mighty Avengers, which kind of turned into the Ultimates, but he's got Monica Rambeau at the helm of the Mighty Avengers there also. So by Al Ewing. So be sure to check those out for some more Monica Rambeau reading.
And remember, guys, everything we're reading can be found on Marvel Unlimited, with over 25,000 titles to choose from classics, moderns, and obscures. They've got an ever-expanding list of content. And Comixology, they've got all the newest comics with publishers like DC, Image, and Boom. And both apps are available on the Apple Store and Google Play. And, guys, that's it. That's it. It's time to put to rest every major aspect that we could have ripped apart about WandaVision and the comics that were put together to make that show. And I have to take this moment to say, I wish you came to us, Mephisto. Or maybe Mephisto was really the chronic we smoked along the way.
He was there all along.
With that, it's time to get into Falcon and the Winter Soldier, the next awesome Disney Plus series, and all of the comics that break down Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Al, what are we reading next week for the first episode of the Winter Soldier? And I think you told me we've got something special for the people that actually pay attention.
All right, so Chronic Book Club for next week, we are going to start reading 2020's Falcon and the Winter Soldier. The series is entitled Cut Off One Head. We're going to be reading issues 1 through 3 for next week. Written by Derek Landy. Penciler is Federico Vincetti. It can be found on both Marvel Unlimited and Comixology. And while we're talking about that, we are going to have a Chronic Book Club contest. All you have to do is like, subscribe, comment, and share one of our posts and be entered to win issue number 1 of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which we are going to be reading this week. There you go. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and share below.
Well, that does it for WandaVision and for us. Remember to like, subscribe, and comment. It really helps the channel. For Chronic Book Club, I'm Christopher Jakes with Al Taylor.
What up?
And Mike Wood.
Yeah.
Keep twisting papers, keep flipping pages. One last time, cue up that absolute Agatha bop.